join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good, Charlie?
Okay. All right, we're going to start the evening out. Presentations. Our superintendent, Mr. Wheelock, has a short presentation.
Okay, thank you very much, President Miller. I just wanted to first, the purpose of tonight's meeting is to complete the business that we were not able to attend to last Tuesday night. So tonight will be to take care of that agenda item. Certainly there's many resolutions on there that we do need to act on and move forward with our business. I know with some of the concerns with the last meeting, I do want to kind of just discuss some protocols here at the board meeting. And simply put, the board meeting is a meeting that's held in the public. Obviously, the public can attend, but it is not considered a public meeting. It's a meeting for the board to conduct their business for the school. However, in our agenda, and boards are permitted to do this, they don't have to, but you are permitted to have a public to be heard or public comment section at Board of Education meetings. And different districts will do this differently in many different ways. Particularly our district has been, historically, we've had public to be heard sessions in the beginning part of the meeting, and we've also had it in the near the end of the meeting, kind of a second time around after the board has done their business. And the purpose for the public comment is simply that, is for the public to share a comment that they wish to have the board know about. Certainly some things you have to be considerate of is you cannot be necessarily addressing the board regarding a specific employee, identifying somebody of that nature. And certainly we also ask that if some of the things that you wish to discuss to the board to give consideration to, is that something that could be addressed to either the superintendent or to a building principal, or maybe directly to a teacher or a person specific to your concern that maybe has helped you out. Basically, is there a chain of command that you could utilize to share some of those concerns? And then certainly you can come and share that with the board. The purpose of that comment is for the board to hear your concern, but it is not an open dialogue for back and forth exchange. And I know that's confused people and it's frustrated people. And I got a better understanding of that certainly after last meeting and just in talking with some people in the community since the last meeting. And that's understood and we get it. Not a lot of people always attend board meetings, so they're not really sure of the function and purpose in what their role is in attending those board meetings. So I do want to just address that quickly, that we typically give you about a 5-minute limit. I know there was some discussion in our August 17th meeting. There was a lot of discussion about mask wearing in school, and several people basically sharing some of the same concerns. Along those lines, the board can say, if they've heard 2 or 3 people talking about masks that come up and basically saying the same thing, we could inquire with the rest of the audience, is there more people that wish to discuss the topic of masks, we'll say, for an example. Several people may raise their hand and we can acknowledge that. We could ask, is there anybody wish to add more to that discussion, or is it relatively the same? And kind of keep the proceedings moving forward. We definitely ask that people, if those concerns need to be shared to the board, if you've already kind of gone through the chain of command and that's not an option at that point, certainly share that in a respectful and courteous manner. The board will respectfully listen. And I think some concerns are with, geez, the board's not responding back to us, and that it's not the role of board during these meetings or the purpose of these meetings to have that open dialogue. That does not mean they're listening. The fact that you may come in and have a request and wish to have some change, and if that change is not honored or in a future meeting not recognized, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're not listening. It just may say, hey, we took it into consideration what you had to share, among other things that they've taken into consideration when making a decision that may impact our students, our staff, and our community. So I just wanted to share some of those perspectives. We've always welcomed the community. We continue to welcome community. And that'll be part of our discussion a little bit later on in our meeting, the future of our board meetings here, at least the near future of our board meetings. Discussing whether or not we go back to an in-person format where folks are welcome to come in and have, watch the board, carry on the proceedings of the meeting. And if there's something they wish to share or feel prudent that it's to share at that meeting for the board to hear, it can be heard. If there are some questions that people are looking for answers, certainly we can note those and I can work with the board. And most likely they may turn to me and say, hey, can you work on that or provide an answer for that particular question and get back to that person? And I can do that and will do that, but that will be after a board meeting. And I will do that in a reasonable amount of time, depending on what the request or question is and where I need to get the information from. So, those kind of things, we're not necessarily shutting you out. It's just, that's the formality of running the board meeting. So it's kind of our fault, I suppose, and I'll take the blame on that, is maybe assuming people knew something that they didn't otherwise know, and that assumption was wrong. Especially if you've not attended board meetings, you're not aware of that. So that's taking some time tonight to try to explain that to everybody. I do at the next board meeting, we'll try to, I know there's been some questions posed to me. Some of those I'll just directly answer to people, but some of those things I may give a little more of an overview, share with the board, and then share with any public that's certainly online or present in the audience. With that being said, I do know one of the pressing questions has been the mandate of the mask. Where is that mandate? Who's mandated that? And just plain and simple, as of September 2nd, 2021, after the governor, the new governor taking office, basically pressed upon the Department of Health to enforce a mask mandate. And they came out, as they've done, as you're familiar with, I think most of last year, Department of Health guidance documents. And they're basically directives that come out from the Department of Health for us school districts to follow and adhere to. And they may change throughout the school year. On September 2nd, the State Department of Health did come out with a mask mandate, and that's who's basically has mandated us to wear the mask. That is not the board's decision. The board did decide on that on August 17th. However, that was superseded on September 2nd when the state stepped in and made that mandate. So I know people are frustrated with that. I know people are looking to where can we go to voice our concerns over the mask. And typically you would go to the entity that's basically made the directive. And that could be to Albany. It could be speaking to your elected officials, getting in the governor's ear somehow, getting into the State Department of Health's ear somehow. But those are the people who are making these regulations. It could be state ed on certain things too. So we're not, in this particular case, we are not responsible for that. The board is merely, and myself, are merely enforcing the directive that's come from the state. And the last piece I want to talk to is kind of more recent, and that has to do with, our COVID situation here in Sauquoit. You all would have gotten a message again from the school today that we had 3 more positive cases in the middle school. And we continue to monitor our situation here and how it impacts our instruction. And the goal is certainly to do everything that we can to keep our in-person instruction going. And we will do that to the greatest extent possible. So what I would like to do is share a little bit about quarantining, because I know some people are getting phone calls from State Department of Health. Again, they're the ones that will set quarantine. Us as a school district may reach out to you and state that we anticipate that you will be quarantined and probably put you in a precautionary quarantine because we understand what the rules are for a close contact. That meaning if you were in close contact, that means 15 minutes within a 24-hour period of a positive case. Okay, so and if I'm within six feet of somebody in that regard, that could be a reason for quarantining. However, if you're in a classroom, the current directives from the state as far as quarantining goes, if you're in a classroom, students, if you're wearing a mask, you're 3 feet apart, you should not have to quarantine. I will make this note here that those rules are slightly different in Herkimer County, and a portion of our district is in Herkimer County. There may be some people who have, maybe quarantined because their rules are a little bit more restrictive than what the state has put out. Our county is basically following what the state directives are and what's come from the Center for Disease Control. So please, I understand your frustration if your kid has to quarantine. Most of the quarantines are coming because of your location if you're riding school transportation, and it depends on your proximity with the positive case of a student who rode the bus. Right now in the classrooms, there have been no quarantines unless in the case of if we have to follow guidelines based on a Herkimer County residents. But we have reached out to Department of Health and are working on see if we can get better clarification on if we do truly have to follow those rules out of Herkimer County. And since our school's in Oneida County, if there's a way that those rules could be applied so that it's consistent for everybody here in our district. So that's kind of what we're up against. I know we have kids coming back from quarantine, some new ones going on, but we'll continue to monitor the health. And I have to continue to stress, if you feel sick, if you ask your kids your questions at home as far as the daily health screening, and if they have any type of COVID-like symptom, please keep them home. Notify us. Monitor your child. Go see your doctor. If you feel you need a test, then go get a test. But I did want to kind of touch upon those few things. So at this point, I think we can move on.
All right. So next we'll move on for public to be heard. Did we receive any feedback or anything from the community prior? Okay.
We did not, and just if I could make one thing I forgot to mention here. I know tonight's meeting, we did ask for any public to be heard to be submitted to our board clerk, Marie Goodman, prior to the meeting. And we did, I know typically we have had the chat feature available for public comment. Tonight's meeting, we do not have that activated, and we'll have discussion on whether or not, whether we're virtual or remote with the live stream. We'll have further discussion later on whether or not we will continue to have a chat feature during that, or have a different means for those people who do not attend the meeting to be able to share a comment. So we'll keep you informed on that. But tonight, if you're looking for a chat feature, there is not one there. The guidelines for tonight's meeting was to submit something in writing to the board clerk before the meeting. Thank you.
Next, we'll move on for students to be heard. Did we receive any questions, comments from students?
No.
Okay. All right. Next, we'll move on to Board of Education Subcommittee reports.
Okay, no reports.
Okay. Next, we'll move on to Superintendent's report.
Yes, the first one is open enrollment, or opening day enrollment. We have 943 students as of September 7th. That's up from 916 last year. Some of that will ebb and flow. I know we've had some new homeschool requests, but we've also had several homeschool students come back. So basically, even though they're kids in our district, if they elect to homeschool, they basically have unenrolled from school, so they do not get counted in our attendance. So some of that attendance is reflective of some homeschool students coming back, but also of some new enrollees in the district in general. So that's kind of a good thing there. Second thing, just board, there's a School Boards Institute general membership meeting this Thursday. It is being held at the BOCES in person. 6 o'clock is sign in, and I think light refreshments. The program starts at 6:30, and the topic is COVID-19 federal funding challenges and opportunities. And then 7.3, just mark your calendars. The school is offering, at least to our staff, and certainly the board members, a flu clinic. We do this every year. We do it through Walgreens, or at least we have for the past, I think, 4 or 5 years. We will be offering that once again. I think it's the second half of the day, like from 11:30 to 3:30. It will be held in our elementary school, just near the main office, and that'll be on September 29th, 2021.
This is absolutely disgusting that you would hold this meeting without the public knowledge, without letting anyone know when this meeting was. You lied, you put on the Facebook, you put on the school website that this meeting was gonna be the 28th, next week at 7 o'clock. It's on the school website. You lied. It is illegal according to New York State School Board rules. You are lying. The public has a right to be here. They have a right to be heard. You should be ashamed of yourself. That's why.
You can open the door.
How did she get in? She pushed me and Dad out of the way.
So physically, are you okay?
Is she okay? Do we?
Are you okay? Are you okay?
Do you want to
No.
call?
No, I'm sorry.
No.
Okay.
That pause is still on? Are we still on? We are, okay.
You okay?
Just realized the girls got pushed.
What's that?
The girls were pushed. They were pushed.
They were pushed. Do you want to pause for a minute?
Can you pause
Can
that?
you pause for just a second? I want to make sure this lady's okay. Yeah, she's a little.
She has to work
Stop it, I don't know if I can pause it.
That's all right. As long as you get it up and running again.
Just stop
Turn
it.
it towards the, yeah, or turn it towards the wall.
All right. All right.
Were you out there, Mike?
I just, no, I was making sure that they leave.
Okay.
The staff are okay, those two women.
Yeah,
are a
yeah.
little,
They're a little-
They
yeah,
probably-
shaking.
they
That
went
one
to the
lady
door,
was shaking. I
probably
felt
see
bad.
who it was, open it up, and then.
Okay,
We're all set? We're good? Everyone okay?
continue.
Everyone okay to continue?
Is it back up and running?
We just-
I believe we're live.
All set?
Okay.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right, next we'll move on to old business. We don't have anything on the agenda this evening. Next, we'll move on to new business. I'll read 9.1 to 9.24 as a consent agenda. If anyone has any questions or would like anything pulled for further discussion, please let me know. 9.1 is a resignation. 9.2 is appointment of long-term substitute teacher. 9.3, appointment of bus driver. 9.4, appointment of bus driver. 9.5, appointment of mentor teacher. 9.6, appointment of lead teacher. 9.7, appointment of lead teacher. 9.8, appointment of teacher aide. 9.9, appointment of teacher aide. 9.10, appointment of laborer. 9.11, appointment of substitute teacher aide. 9.12, appointment of substitute teacher. 9.13, appointment of substitute teacher. 9.14, appointment of substitute teacher. 9.15, appointment of substitute teacher. 9.16, appointment of custodian. 9.17, appointment of custodian bus driver. 9.18, substitute bus rate for bus drivers. 9.19, adoption of district safety plan. 9.20, sport combination. 9.21, athletic appointment. 9.22, approval of minutes of the August 17th, 2021 meeting. 9.23, resolution authorizing payment of bills approved by the claims auditor. 9.24, committee on special education and committee on preschool. There's usually something after that. All right. Does anyone have any questions or would like anything pulled on 9.1 to 9.24?
9.19, please.
How about 9.18? Just a quick question for
Quick
Mr.
question.
Wheelock.
Okay, did you want that pulled, Todd, or did you just have a question? Want me to pull 9.19, you said?
Yes.
All right, so Tony, you just had a quick question and we're pulling 9.19.
Please.
Okay. Did you want to go ahead or do you want me to?
Sure.
Okay.
Mr. Wheelock, how does an employee gain seniority if they're half-day bus driver, half-day custodian? I don't know.
It's just seniority in the district, not specific to the position.
Okay. Okay.
So what do you,
I know you got, I think we saw it once before. I don't know if it was on another agenda. Is this the first time we're having an employee that's both a custodian and bus driver?
oh, you said 1.7. I thought you were referring to.
No, I'm
1.8.
sorry. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
yes, I do.
I apologize.
Okay.
1.7.
1.7.
No, we have other employees that have been custodian bus driver.
And they get seniority in both?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, your years in the district in the non-instructional unit, they just accrue seniority regardless of the position.
Okay. Thank you.
Well, I mean, obviously, no, seniority, they gain years of service in the district, but the seniority, yes, is based on the position. So in this particular case, it would be for custodian / bus driver.
Only for that position then?
Yes, but I think it refers to both custodian or bus driver. So it can be both.
Okay. That's all I had.
Okay.
Okay. What was sorry, Bree, did
I
you?
was just gonna say, they also have to take the civil service exam.
Yep.
For that.
No?
I know it was over 10 years now. About 10 years ago, we had a little controversy. Was it similar to that, where one person was let go? About 10 years ago, when we went through some
yeah.
difficult times.
Yeah, that was right.
Was that
Laborer moving to custodian, yeah.
So we're going to avoid that
We
conflict?
should be all set, yes.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yep.
Okay, then. I'll need a motion to approve 9.1 to 9.24 with the exception of 9.19.
So moved.
Tony, I'll need a second, please. Jim? Okay. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. I'll need a motion then to open discussion on 9.19.
So moved.
Todd, I'll need a second, please. Mike? Thank you. Okay, go ahead, Todd.
So, in reviewing the safety plan, I brought this up last year, and I think I might have brought it up the year before. Has there been any discussions about developing emergency action plans for our extracurricular activities? I bring that up because when the nurse leaves and many people leave at 3:00, we have a lot of activities that are going on here. And I really think it's important that when we have emergency situations in our extracurricular activity, I'm not just talking athletics, I'm including athletics, but it could be band, it could be the play, whatever it may be, and a student goes down from some type of sudden cardiac issue or some type of head injury or whatever the thing could be, or an adult goes down. I think our people need to be prepared of what to do, and we don't practice that, in my opinion.
We do for the athletics, but I will follow up with the club.
Oh, we do stuff?
Yes, Mr. Jones has worked with our staff on developing those plans and having people in place to execute if there's a situation, yes.
Oh, okay, great. That's outstanding.
You know, but Todd, you've mentioned that because the first thing I thought was athletics. I'm thinking, I think the coaches do, but when you said band and other like clubs and stuff, that didn't even cross my mind, but you're absolutely right. You could have an injury or something happen in rehearsal for a play or rehearsal for band or something.
And I'm glad that our athletic teams do that, but what, shouldn't it be outlined in our district safety plan? That's what our athletic coaches are doing?
I can look into that, whether that has to be a component, because the district safety plan is not gets into the specifics of emergency safety plans, obviously, because it's a general document that's out there, but I'll see if there's a place in there.
I mean, just a general statement that all of our extracurricular activities establish emergency action plans, something like that. I think that's important for the community to know that we are doing those types of things. So I appreciate Mr. Jones doing that with the athletic team. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other further discussion on 9.19 before we vote? Okay. So all those in favor to approve 9.19? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Thank you. Next, we'll move on to miscellaneous topics.
Okay, I think at this time, we probably should discuss future board meetings, how we want to conduct those. So I open up the floor. I know there's, a reason for this meeting. And if it's not published correctly on the website, I do apologize for that. This notice did go in the newspaper last Friday, or sent to the newspaper last Friday. It was given its required 72 hours of notice. And the live stream was obviously noted on the website, but if it did not get correctly put in there as today's date, then that's my fault, and I accept full responsibility for that. So we will certainly work on that miscommunication, but there certainly was no intent to run a meeting privately. We put out the notice that we were supposed to put out. We posted it on our school buildings, as we're required to do. And I know the website is one more place to put it. If that didn't get put on there, my apologies. That's on me. So I open the floor for discussion on how we wish to proceed with our public meetings, either in person. We do have by decree of the governor, they did allow that school board meetings could be held virtually, I think up until or through mid-January. But that's certainly up to us if we wish to proceed with in-person and go from there. So, thoughts?
I'm for keeping them open. I understand what everyone's dealing with. There's some really good people who wanted to talk last time that were drowned out. And I don't want this to be co-opted by one or two people who've got stuff. I don't know what other way to say it. But I'm for keeping it the way that it is. That's just my thought on it.
I guess at this point, I agree. I like that we can have the community come in here and talk to us. I am a little nervous, I'm not gonna lie. And I don't like being afraid leaving board meetings. I don't like that it trickles down into my family, into my son. So, I'm willing to absolutely open it back up to the community. And I think that, like you said, there are a lot of good people in the community that want to come and share their comments, and I want to hear them. And just remind everybody, and hopefully like what Mr. Wheelock had said about how we conduct our meetings, and really genuinely, we do listen to everyone's concerns. So I guess, Mike, I'm with you, and
just
I would
wanted
like to
add to that.
Yeah.
You'll notice that only one person was here. So before there was a group of people who were here, kind of my understanding just from, being in the know and people engaging me, that there were a lot of people that were not happy about what happened at the last meeting. A lot of people reached out to me and were like not happy. And there was a little bit of a cheering section. I understand that, but you'll notice that there was only one person today. And other people probably, I don't know if they were contacted to join in. I don't have any of that information, but I would imagine that there was not 5 or 6 or a whole bunch. It was one person. So I'll just say that that's on camera. That was seen. And I always go by film just through work. There's always cameras. There's always audio, and people see that. So take that for what you will. I think I pretty much made my point on how I feel about it, but I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. But I really want to know how the other
What-
board members feel. Absolutely.
Well, one question that I have is, when we have the open, if we do go that route, are we gonna be able to get through the meeting? What is gonna happen if someone comes in without a mask? Are they gonna be removed? Because I think it's gonna keep happening. So if it's one person, can we get through our business? Will we be able to?
I know, I know, I agree. Go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, that's, my concern is, we've been elected to carry out business and to do a job for the school district and the community. And I'm 100% in favor of, hearing people, because it's helped us a lot in the past when we've heard from the community, But on the other side, when I see the level and intensity of the anger and emotion that's exhibited, it does concern me, especially since we had some physical contact tonight. I'm concerned about backlash. I'm a little concerned when I see that level of intensity about, is my vehicle being keyed right now? Those kind of things. And I think as a board, that all kind of needs to be considered as we move forward, because we do need our community communicating. It's helped us hugely in the past. So those are my thoughts, to add to the pot as we move forward with some kind of a decision in the best way to function over the next, month or two, or whatever it takes for things to kind of, I think if we do the open forums as we have, open opportunities to talk, I think it would be good to preface them with a statement like they do at athletic events sometimes, where they actually make a kind of a public statement about appropriate behavior to the stands. I don't know if you've ever witnessed that, something that would just kind of serve as a reminder at meetings of the things that that Ron shared tonight. It doesn't have to be long, but if it hits the basics, I think it helps to frame that time period rather than have some maybe new people come in who aren't familiar with it, and all of a sudden it becomes a back and forth, or, you know what I mean? It just might contribute to just an orderly way of being able to have our meeting that we want to have.
I'm gonna follow up with Mike Open with, and I totally agree. I've heard from a lot of people. And there's a very, very high percentage of people in this community that are embarrassed, they're frustrated, and they're totally disgusted by what's going on here. And I'm not gonna hold any punches. It's on social media, as I said at the last meeting, it's verbal, it's abuse, it can go on and on and on. And I don't think we have control of it, Ron. Here's a perfect example tonight. Yes, it's only one person, but last week was more than one person. And another thing that came up is, we talked about the masking issue and we talked about some other issues. The community as a whole doesn't want to hear that right now. They want to know they're going to vote on a $10 million project in December. What do they know about it right now? Ron's been forthcoming, giving the information in a newsletter. We haven't discussed it. We haven't talked about it. We haven't come up with a plan on how we're going to promote it. We've got a teacher's contract that needs to be settled. We can't just put it on a back burner and deal with this every week. Charlie did a presentation on energy efficiency. I mean, that's a major decision for a district that's going to save us money. And what are we doing? We're dealing with this. And to do this in person week after week until we get some type of control over it, I'm not sure that we're going to do that right now. So I want to come in person because we need that dialogue. But there's a high percentage of people out there saying, get to business, Sauquoit Valley. That's what we elected you for. You want to defy Albany? You want to defy the superintendent? You want to write that on social media? Go to Albany and do it. Don't do it at our meetings.
Thank you, Tony. Anyone else have any other comments, discussion?
I'm in favor of having public sessions and an open meeting. But I think people need to be held accountable for their behavior. I think as a board, we need to rise above that and be civil and have an orderly process in place. If we open up to the public and they come in here and people aren't abiding by what Ron outlined ahead of time and what you outlined as the president of the board, then this is an option. And this is the option we will go, as Tony's point, to conduct the business we were elected to do. But in my opinion, I think we have many great people in this community, and we need to give them the opportunity to civilly respond to the board and share their concerns with us. And I don't know by going just to this format, if we've given them that opportunity to do that. But if they can't, and we can't conduct our business, then this is the option that we have. And if we have to do this for a month, or 4 meetings, or 2 months, whatever it is, then that's the option. But we need to tell the community, we have to do our business. And I think we should give them the opportunity to show us that they can share their concerns in a civil manner. That's what we're about. We're a society. And if people can't, they need to be held accountable. That's my opinion on it.
Judy?
I think they should remain open. I think it's good that people are coming in, but I also think we need to remember that we are a community and that we really all want the same things. The particulars may be a little bit different, but we really all want the same thing, and we just want what's best for the children in our school as a community. And I don't know if, maybe somebody stating that at the beginning, we're all here to do the best that we can. And just try to do it together. I think, everybody just wants to work together.
So after last week's board meeting, when we left, I was sitting in my car and I was kind of blocked in a little bit, so I was planning on leaving, and I had a community member knock on my window. And I was a little taken off because I was a little rattled over what happened. And I felt bad because he wanted to discuss a subject that was outside of everything else. And that's why he came. And I have to be honest, I was a little afraid to roll down the window because I didn't know what was going to be on the other side. So where I have concern in this, like I said, don't want to ever be afraid to walk out of the school and roll my window down and talk to someone. So like I said, I'm hoping going forward, I don't want to feel that fear anymore. And I want to be able to approach people and people approach us and approach me and talk. So I am willing to try again, but going forward, if it's not successful, then I am absolutely, this will be the format I will be in favor of if we can't maintain some sort of, decency towards one another and some decorum going forward.
Just one more quick comment.
Sure, absolutely,
I don't
Mike,
know,
that's right
the
here.
observation with this individual, when the individual walked in, did you notice what she had on? She had a mask on.
I should have
All
made
right.
that.
That's all. That's all I wanted to say. I mean, you see, these things will correct themselves. And you have fear, and I get that.
No, I don't have fear,
I
Mike.
do,
Well, I
I'm just-
mean, anger.
Mike,
I mean, totally.
I'm afraid. And,
Sure.
and for my son to say, is it okay for me to go to school tomorrow?
Oh, yeah.
That's like, because you can dislike me, that's fine, but I don't want that to affect her. And what it's done is it's creeped down into the kids at the kids level, and it's not. They shouldn't be pawns. They shouldn't feel that, even though they might not, you as a parent or might like it or not like that they have to wear a mask. They don't want them to be in the middle of a disagreement. So, me as the board president and with the decision that I made shouldn't be taken out on my son.
Absolutely.
So that's where I kind of I get a little bit uneasy with the fact that I really felt that was way crossing over the line that he has to be uncomfortable about coming to school.
You know, what kind of,
I'm sorry, Jim.
Go ahead.
asking about what kind of protections do we have in terms of being able to do our job, you know, like just in a practical way. If there's a couple of people that aren't gonna allow that to happen, you know, intentionally, deliberately disruptive, what's a recourse? Because there's many other people who they want to see the meeting, just like the person who was knocking on your window, you know,
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
what steps can we take so that we don't have to go into hiding? Can we, you know, is there,
Like I said last week, I thought an option was to go into executive session. And by law, that means we're gonna either leave and go to another room and conduct business that we have in executive session. And then before we leave, we say we're gonna come back out of executive session. We don't know what time that is. We don't know how long that business is gonna take. And when we come back, we're gonna try to do our business, but we have to make sure that these things are being followed. Like you said, decorum, civility, wearing your mask, those types of things. And if we can't, then this is the option that we have.
Last
we
week,
have a code of conduct for students that the
Yeah,
whole
that's what I
school
was saying.
operates on, you know, like there ought to be some kind of code of conduct. We have the framework for what a meeting should be like.
Yeah.
And what are our consequences that can be used so that we don't have to run and hide. You know, we shouldn't have to leave the room to finish the meeting, you know, like, and if there's not a way for us to manage that, then that kind of puts me feeling like we need to stay in this kind of setting, because every time an unruly person were to come in, does that mean we again kind of like lose out, you know, on the night that we're having our meeting and have to end it? It seems like if we were in school and something like this happened, it's like the person who's disrupted things is corrected, you know, and has to leave so that the meeting can go on. I guess that's my, you
There's
know,
been,
I know.
I mean,
Go ahead.
among adults, that it doesn't work that way, or,
The code of conduct applies to any activity on school grounds
yeah,
and any of those who attend those activities.
yeah.
Mr. Wheeler, we've had 3 incidents where we've been negligent to our agenda, the last 3 meetings, correct? In one shape or another. Tonight is a perfect example. We're
Yeah.
spending
Yeah.
nearly an hour discussing this. Whitesboro had 1 incident at their board meeting. What was the decision that board made? Can you share that with us?
To go virtual meetings,
Until how long?
I think until January.
Till January?
I don't
1st.
know specifically, but at least until further notice.
And Mr. Wheelock shared that with me, so I was aware of the answer. But I think the board needs to hear that. There was 1 incident, they were confronted by an unruly group of people, and they went virtual till January 1st, if it be factual, but that's what I was told. We've had 3 meetings. The first meeting was an hour and a half of open discussion. The second meeting was last week, and we know what that amounted to, and already it's been an hour, we're discussing this now tonight. So I'm for the interaction, trust me, but not under these circumstances. I don't think we need to get to the nuts and bolts of our agenda at 9:30, 10 o'clock at night and talk about a $10 million project, or how we can resolve the teacher's contract, or how we can save the district thousands of dollars in an energy performance bond. But when do we do those things? Those are issues that should be taking us the hours to do and come up with a good plan.
I mean, I think there's procedures that you can put in for public sessions that we talked about at the last training that we had, that I thought were some very good suggestions, that if you limit the comments to 1 person, has 1 opportunity to speak for 5 minutes. If they want to speak a second time, they can wait for the second public session. Things like that. I mean, I think we can put procedures in place so that we're not hearing the same thing for an hour and a half. I agree with you, Tony, but I do believe it's important for the community to have that opportunity to come.
And I agree with you. One of the precautions was to hire a security guard. Look what they did to that poor man last week. What good did that do us? We put him on the spot.
Well.
You know what I'm saying? I know what you're saying. There's precautions.
But
Bring law enforcement in, let them get abused. Is that an answer?
like I said,
I respect you, Todd.
you know, I just think people's rights to come and share their concern should be number one, but it has to be done with decorum, has to be done with civility, and it has to be done so that we're allowed to do the business that we need to do. All those topics that you talk need to be right up here in the top, and that's what we need to take care of. But we shouldn't dismiss the ability for them to come and share us, because now, not only is it a mask mandate issue, now it's an issue that they don't get to come and speak. Now we've created another issue to put on top of the other ones, in my opinion.
I think it sounds great to say, just have them come in and have a few extra guidelines, but we don't have a plan for how to deal with out of control person, you know, like the things you're sharing, Todd, they kind of apply to people that want to cooperate and be a part of a discussion, you know, but we don't have a plan for how to manage a repeat of what's happened, you know, and if we don't have a plan for that, what happens is that ruins it for all the people who want to be at the meeting and participate. So if we don't address that and have a plan for it, I would say we're kind of forced to meet remotely because, you know, there has to be a plan for how and what do we do when it happens. I'm going to say when it happens again, you know what I mean? It certainly is looking like it's going to happen, you know, more. So that's my, I don't want to beat a dead horse, but you know, it's just more input.
I just wanted to say one other thing. Were you done? It's hard to tell with
Yeah, I know.
masks on.
I'm smiling.
And last week when I said I agreed with Todd and about going into executive session versus leaving, and it's only because a lot of people were there, and sometimes it's such a struggle to get a free evening.
Mm.
You know, to make it here, to get everything in a row so that you can be out of the house and go someplace else. And that was what I had compassion for the other people there, that I thought that, you know, they made a point of being there for whatever the topic was. And it's a shame that
Yeah,
that other people can't take that into consideration, that it's not just about them and their agenda, that it's about other people. And I'm not saying that about us, I'm saying that about, you know.
it's kind of like kids in a classroom where there are students that are disrupting learning, and there are kids that are growing increasingly frustrated because the authority in the room isn't dealing with it, you know, and we're kind of in that spot now too.
And what happens in a school setting, you were in a school setting, what happens when a student is disruptive and the business of education can't be had? What happens to that student?
You don't punish the whole rest of the class by allowing it to go on.
I
You
agree
do
with,
something
I
that,
agree with you wholeheartedly.
you know, that removes that person from that setting.
Right, so why are we talking about, and like I said, this is, in my opinion, a last resort option to us. But it shouldn't be the first resort to come here and do virtual, because now we are punishing, in your words, the rest of the classroom. Those individuals should be removed, which they would have been last week, but I agree with Ron. Ron stopped it because he felt that it was better to do the suspension of the meeting. I respect Ron and his wisdom in doing that, but that police officer that we had come here for that exact reason was prepared to do his job and remove that student, or remove that person.
Todd, in the end of the day, I gotta be honest with you, and Ron, I said, I didn't wanna see that. I didn't wanna see that woman get dragged out of here. Honestly, I really didn't. So if that meant stopping the meeting versus seeing any type of confrontation between, you know, our community member and the officer, and I know it could have gotten to that, I didn't wanna see it come to that. I
I
really
agree with
did.
you.
That was honestly just so horrible. I did thought to myself that I didn't want to see that. I didn't.
I agree.
I didn't want to
Nobody
see her
wants to
get
see
hurt
that.
or any type of confrontation. I mean, really, at the end of the day, we're 7 volunteers here. And, you know, and I wish that it could have gone in a different direction, but I wasn't comfortable with that. And then to come into executive session and leave the group out there, I wasn't comfortable with that either. I thought, in my best judgment at that time was just to adjourn the meeting, and hopefully now we can get some better, gain a little bit better perspective on how to move forward. But at that time, honestly, I felt that was the best thing. Mike?
I am on social media observing a lot of things. There's people who want to be dragged out by the police. They do. They want that. There were selfies of individuals with the police. And it was like celebrated. This is kind of what we're dealing with here. Somebody wants to be, there's, you know, look at me, and there's a component of that here with this.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's not okay, and it's horrible, especially when your child gets involved. Okay?
Well, that's what I think. What if you have kids? I mean, I don't know if there were any, but sometimes
No,
kids
no,
come to
her
their
child was
children.
there.
Yeah,
She
Board of
brought her child. I
Education
mean,
meeting.
There's some glorification in this, unfortunately. It doesn't answer anybody's question. I mean, it's, you know what they want. I mean, it's still, the public can be unpredictable. We all
Oh, yeah.
understand. It doesn't make it any better or any worse. It's just the fact of the matter.
I'm not a proponent of someone being dragged out of the meeting, and I was.
Not at all.
No, I didn't say that you
I
were.
know, but I was
didn't
one
think-
hundred percent behind Mr. Wheelock stepping in and preventing that from happening. My only thing was, it was very quick. It was over a 4 or 5 minute period at the most. And I think we didn't look at all options that we have, and I respect your decision, Dawn, and your opinion about, you know, you just didn't think it was a good situation to proceed that night, but once again, I don't think the minority should have such a negative effect on the majority that is willing to be civil and willing to share their concern and willing to let us do our job.
Yeah.
That's my opinion on it.
If we have an open meeting next time and this happens again, then we're gonna be in the same boat. Either she's gonna be dragged out or the meeting is gonna be canceled, right? I mean,
Yeah.
then one person is gonna affect everybody in the whole district that we're not gonna have in-person meetings anymore. And that's unfortunate.
And I don't know if you noticed that, like, the dynamic, but there was one person who had gotten a little bit, outspoken, and then it created other people to become very outspoken. So even if they weren't there, because I did hear one person say that's not even why I came to the meeting tonight, but then it started to bring up that same topic again. So and I think you're right. Some people don't come with those intentions, but when it starts to get a little bit heated and a little bit vocal, then I felt like we started losing control, because I think there were some people that were there for the right reasons, and we're trying to tell the people that weren't, like, oh, you need to come or whatever. So then I think it just got combative all the way around. So you're right. I don't know how to prevent that. Maybe there's only 1 or 2 people, but you're in a crowd of 20. Now, how do we prevent the whole crowd from getting uprooted or getting, out of control? I don't know the answer to that. So, if anybody's got any suggestions, you know what I'm saying? Because I think one emotion, and then it kind of bleeds through the audience almost, and then it starts to roll through, and before you know it, there's so much chaos going on. I didn't know. I heard multiple different things going on, and then people fighting amongst each other, and then yelling enough. So I didn't know where to turn, honestly.
You're a mom in this district. Maybe if you stood up at the very beginning and say, listen, we're all parents here, we all want the same thing. We don't want to close down. We don't want to lock you out. Please, let's work together, and then start the meeting. I mean, just something like that, just. That may just hit somebody in the right place, we're just trying to do the best that we can. There's not a rule book
I
for where
think
we
we've
are.
done that a lot, though. I don't think I've ever given anyone the impression that I'm not here to do what's best for everyone. Really, genuinely. I mean, I've been doing this for 11 years now. I always want what's best for everyone. I do.
I mean, we know that. I was just thinking,
Right,
a
right.
simple statement at the
Yeah.
beginning might say, listen, this is, where we're at. We know where we have been, and we don't want to go there again. However you want to word it, whatever is coming from you, but, let's get through this
Yeah.
and let's figure it out. There's no roadmap for this. Let's just do it.
Yeah, we talked about
And
that,
not
hitting the
keep
reset,
canceling
hit the
meetings.
reset button, but I want to make sure, I want to make sure that everyone is comfortable with however we decide to move forward. So,
I know that at the end, when Mr. Wheelock was talking, one of the women that were there at the end, and I didn't even see her, I think she got there towards the end, when you were speaking to them out in the lobby. I mean, she said that was wonderful, the things that you said and that, he explained things, and I think a lot of people just didn't know. I mean, I know even when somebody, and it was hard to hear what was going down because when we're in the auditorium, and I was at the far end, and you guys were all the way over there, and the people that are yelling are right in front of me. But someone was saying something about the date of the masks, and you guys weren't wearing the masks, and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of them didn't even know that the mandate had come down from Albany. I think that a lot of people didn't know even the procedures of a board meeting.
and I understand that, but the question could have been, excuse me, Mr. Wheelock, I'm confused. At the last meeting, we were here without masks, and this meeting we're required. Why is that? Instead, it was just sheer
Yeah,
screaming.
at that point.
So it's like, it was madness. So, if there's confusion or there's misunderstanding, we still can ask and be polite and like I said, and be civil to each other. We can get so much more accomplished that way, honestly, yeah.
I agree.
At the same time, if you're gonna say that you didn't know that they were mandated by the state, I think you're lying to me. Everybody knows that the state stepped in and mandated those masks.
You would think
Everybody.
so.
My friend in Texas told me. I heard about New York State. So
So I don't want to cut anyone off. I just don't want to belabor it to death. But go ahead,
Oh,
Jim. Yeah,
okay,
no, go
yeah.
ahead.
Just from the standpoint of, the people that do come to the meeting, that want to have input, if these same kind of things keep happening, we're not allowing them to have input because the meetings are being canceled. What are we going to do so that those people will have input, have the opportunity for input at each of the meetings we have? And if we don't have a way of controlling that, then really we're forced to go virtual.
Well, I know, and I believe the attorney said that the public to be heard is not required
It's
at a
not
meeting.
required.
It's
no.
not a requirement. And I know that there are some other districts that do it a little bit differently. And maybe we should look at that. I'm not saying that we wouldn't allow it, but some do it beforehand. We don't have to offer it at 2 separate times. Some districts only allow 3 minutes. I think one district, I'm not sure, you actually have to sign up ahead of time if you would like to speak. So maybe if we could come up with a few ideas that hopefully can still allow our public to be heard, but maybe try to control some of that. We're afraid that things would get out of control again. Maybe we can be successful.
Yeah, I think the only trouble with what we're discussing now is it's things that the situations we've had don't apply to because these people aren't asking to be heard. They're doing
Oh,
something
they're-
else, no matter how we structured it, those things are different, they don't fit into a plan for people cooperating and working together. So I like it. I like the idea, but I think it begs the question of, do we have an answer for how we can stop that, or do we need to be virtual?
Well, I can certainly research what some of our options are with a meeting.
Okay.
Whether we temporarily suspend it and then reconvene it or whatever, but I can certainly work with our lawyers to determine what is the proper practice.
I was going to say,
In doing that, if we have to address a situation and then come back and reconvene that night and finish that, then,
that's what I was going to ask, Brian. Is that
different
something we can
avenues
do? Yeah.
that, kind of in uncharted waters, so,
Yeah,
I will look into that.
great.
You know, sometimes if you put it out there at the beginning, the squeaky wheel could ruin this for everybody. Sometimes the community comes together and says, you know, maybe on their own, maybe we should behave. I mean, that happens a lot when somebody, I mean, in sports, if you're all doing jumping jacks because somebody did something,
So we're gonna get some feedback from
Yep.
you, okay, the attorney. See.
So I think moving forward, I'm hearing next Tuesday, the 28th, we will meet again in person. I don't know if we'll do it in the auditorium or in the cafeteria. But I will certainly publicize where it's gonna be and then make that determination, but I think either place could hold us.
Can we agree on some protocol as Todd suggested?
Absolutely.
I think we need to do
Yeah, I
that
agree,
rather.
Tony. I agree.
How are we gonna handle interruptions? How are we gonna handle inappropriate behavior?
was
I
gonna
think
say-
we need to openly discuss that.
Okay.
Because I'm not convinced it's not gonna happen.
I'm not either, Tony.
Who are we going to allow in? You know, I don't know who's who and what's been happening,
Yeah.
but, I mean, if we just open the doors, and I don't know if it's the same person or people, you know, but, I would expect it to happen again, you know, I mean, and I would expect our public to kind of go like, why aren't you doing something?
And that's
You know,
exactly
kind of
what's
like-
going on out there right now.
Yeah.
And those people do not want a confrontation.
Right.
They do not want to come here and voice that opinion.
Right.
So we got to respect both sides too.
that's why I thought a statement is, you misbehave, we shut this down, done. You know, we want everybody to speak, we want everybody to be heard in a respectful manner. And this is it, we're at the point where we're gonna have this next meeting and this is our test case, is this gonna work?
I was gonna say, is there,
And-
I was gonna say, maybe before public to be heard, I can make a statement as far as what we expect for rules to be followed and behavior, and if not, I don't know if it's possible for us then to, if it gets out of control, to close it to the public and then finish our
I'll-
business,
again,
yeah,
I'll see
virtually.
what options
things
we have.
Okay,
And I think we limit the comments about the political football and masks. I don't think we entertain one question about that. I don't think that's our role. That's beyond us right now. The political football of wearing a mask, don't wear a mask, when's my child wear a mask, when they don't wear a mask. I don't think we entertain that. That decision's been made. And as I said earlier, there's a place that you can voice that opinion, and it's not at the Board of Education level. I don't know how everybody else feels, but, I mean, that's the issue at hand. That's the issue we're dealing with, folks.
Yeah.
There's no curricular issue there. There's no building renovation issue there. There was one gentleman, out of respect, that had a question about a coaching vacancy. That's the only issue, other than the mass political football, that we heard in 3 weeks.
Iran, is it permissible to have sign up ahead of time, like you come in and you can put your name on an agenda, so we can maybe get an idea of, if I see I've got 12 people signed up and, you know, they want to discuss masking, I can say, okay, so, you know, can we do that? Is it something that
Right,
maybe would
is there
help?
one person that
That wants to
on
speak
behalf
of
the
these,
mass or
these 10 people or 12 people, or, you know, we've got a coaching question or whatever, and then we can kind of see what we've got coming up for public to be heard, just to kind of keep it a little bit more organized and moving along.
But to Tony's point, we have no control over it. So why are we entertaining their
Those
questions
questions.
if
Right, well-
they say, I don't want my kid wearing a mask, well,
Do I have
You
to
know.
recognize that?
Can
Ron?
we,
That's the question I have.
can we make a statement at the beginning of the meeting
Uh-huh.
that the Board of Education is in favor or is going to follow the New York State mandates that has been directed to all New York State schools. And we are obligated to follow the mask mandate. We understand the concerns that are out there. We've heard them now for 2 meetings. We are not going to entertain any more comments on the mask mandate until we have been instructed by the New York State Department of Health that there is no longer a mask mandate. And it's a local school district issue. And if people continue to come up and say, I have a comment about mask mandate, they're not following the decorum of the meeting. And that's a reason we're gonna suspend the meeting. And then this is what we're gonna do. And then at the next meeting, this is what we're gonna do. That's what you're talking about, protocols that we gotta follow. We gotta be civil about it. And we're gonna be upfront and honest with everybody. And if this happens, this is what we're gonna do. And then we're gonna do this next. And we're upfront with everybody, so everybody knows it. It's not a surprise to anybody. They don't like it, I understand that, but we have a job to do. We have business to conduct. We have big
Well,
topics.
That's why I thought, Ted, if we had a sign up ahead of time, and I did have 12 people that wanted to come and talk about masking, you could say, okay, I have so-and-so and so, and you have questions concerning masks, we are not gonna address them this evening.
Yep.
It is not, you know what I'm saying, at least we can know ahead of time as to some, reason while you're there. And maybe genuinely, and it is a question, and I don't wanna make the assumption that they're not there, maybe you should just ask us something, but we could say, if it, genuinely have a question or whatever, but please, at this point, we're not gonna entertain that anymore. Please reach out to Mr. Relocker or whoever if you have a further question, but we're not gonna do that. And we'll move on to the next public to be heard in line, who is whoever, Mr. Jones, and he has a question regarding coaching.
But I do think that if someone comes in and they're right, I'm gonna talk about the cafeteria. But then as soon as they get up there, all they're gonna do is talk about the
That's
math.
gonna be the honor
They're not
system, yeah.
following the decorum
Right,
of the meeting.
yeah.
I understand that you
Yeah.
wanna try to get a plan ahead.
Yeah.
I just think the community is smart enough and they understand enough. This is what we're gonna do. And we're telling you ahead of time, we're not gonna be talking about masks. We're gonna follow the New York State mandate. If you have a specific question like, does my kid have to wear a mask while they're eating their lunch? That goes to the building administrator.
Mhm.
Those are the questions. The board is not entertaining any mask questions because that's not our responsibility.
And don't, Todd, I can make that statement and they still could get up there and do that,
And,
so,
and then we stop the meeting. We suspend the meeting because they're not following the decorum of the meeting.
You're setting very firm boundaries with people. And
Yes.
if they don't want to follow the boundaries, then we can roll. Another thing I'd like to add, if anybody comes up at the next meeting and makes a comment about something not being on the calendar, like we saw earlier, we can let them know that this was addressed in this meeting and we can move right on from there. Because I'm not gonna hear that either.
Yeah.
But here are the rules. You're not following the rules. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, the adults, right? My kids say the adults in the room, haha, Dad. That's who we are. Finally, 50.
Kid.
Do we need to be
I agree.
concerned about the people who have nothing to do with whether they speak or don't speak? It has to do with other, because,
yeah,
you
Jim,
know,
you're
our
right,
things, the
yeah.
things we're talking about aren't relevant to the situations
that-
that we've
yeah.
had to deal with.
You're
So
right, yeah,
I'm saying,
absolutely.
I could see maybe why Whitesboro decided what they decided, because we have great ways of managing the speaking for the people who want to follow the protocols and speak, and we want that to be able to happen. If we have the same kind of behaviors that we've had, marching in and doing whatever, it doesn't have anything to do with their turn to speak or what they want to say, this is a whole nother
That's a whole nother.
area of behavior, and if it's not able to be managed, then the people who do want to speak are going to become frustrated and angry, like, hey, you're the Board of Education. You're canceling another meeting.
Which is why they might shut down the bad behavior.
I don't know if they
I
have the
don't
power
think they're
to.
gonna have the oppor- I don't know,
I don't know if they have
I
the
don't know
power
if
to
that would
do
happen,
that.
it hasn't yet. And I thought that, maybe that the community that was a little, upset over what had happened, that would trickle through and maybe have an effect on some of the others. And I don't know if it has, I hope it does, I
But-
really do,
but-
There was only one person here tonight, so it
But, yeah,
has
that doesn't,
lessened.
but
But
there
my
was also a
concern
closed meeting tonight, so.
with Tony, you said 3 meetings ago. I understand it went long, and there was an hour and a half, but there was a big topic because it was our decision that we were gonna make. And I said this at the meeting, and I continue to say this, I was very proud of our community, the way they communicated that night. I know it was long, but I thought they were respectful for the most part. I think some people had to be pulled in a little bit, but they weren't too far outside the line. I thought they did a great job. In this last meeting, my concern was that it all transpired within 4 to 5 minutes. We didn't give the community the opportunity to try to police themselves. And then in this meeting, they didn't have the opportunity because we went virtual. And we had one individual that disrupted this meeting, and I think that person has to be held accountable for their behavior. And that's it. And then we're gonna give the community one more time, and we're gonna be very clear on what our expectations are. We're gonna be very clear on what we're gonna do if we don't have decorum,
Okay.
and then we follow through.
Yep.
Just like a parent would.
I stand behind you.
Yeah.
I stand behind you.
Absolutely.
I'm a yes for that.
Yeah, that's exactly what, you said it differently, but that's exactly what.
And there are prominent, there are prominent attorneys that will take anyone's concern for the smearing and the defamation of character taking place on social media. Not just for this board, but for boards throughout the area. There are very good attorneys looking at some of that language and some of those accusations and the defamation of character. That's clearly being done.
People
And
need to be
Mike-
held accountable.
Mike attested to that. He's read probably a lot of what I've seen.
And as I stated before, people need to be held accountable for their actions.
They will be.
I just-
I'm good, Mr. Wheeler.
Okay. All right.
So anything more on the certain protocols for public to be heard? And if we don't, or if we have at the next meeting, more specific protocols that we want to follow, or is there something, I mean, what I've heard is have people sign up ahead of time to speak, but I don't know if there's any, have them sign up ahead of time, have them submit stuff ahead of time
Yeah.
that they're gonna speak, and if they don't do that, then they're just present at the meeting, and it's not, or, we'll see how next meeting goes, and, we run our, do we continue to run 2 public to be heard sessions? Do we keep it at 5 minutes, or do we lessen that? What, you talk about things, parameters, but we need,
Yeah.
what are those?
I'm in favor of people signing up ahead of time
Yeah.
with their topic. And then at the meeting, we make the comment of the subject we're not gonna discuss, or we're not gonna listen to. I think that's very important for the community, and hopefully they're listening to it tonight, that we are gonna follow the New York State mandates that were given to all schools in New York State. And the mask mandate, we are gonna follow. So we're not gonna discuss that. And then I think the president of the board should introduce or call up the speaker.
I
Because then they sign up,
Yep.
and then the speaker and Jane Doe, would you please come to the microphone and
Yep.
share your concerns with us?
Yep.
And you're gonna be able to speak one time at the 5 minutes at the beginning. Once you're done with your 5 minutes, then you would sit down.
Yep.
If you wanna speak again, it would be at the end, as you were invited up by the president. Because there might be something we speak about in the meeting that gives them, that opportunity to make a comment at the end too. So I like both at the front and the beginning.
Yep.
I think the president invites them up. They have to sign up through your office ahead of time with the topic that they would like to discuss.
That sounds very fair, Todd.
In the interest of getting more people to talk, maybe shorten the time to 3 minutes, 2 or 3 minutes, because there was a lot of repetition in the communications that came at the last meeting when,
Yeah.
or 2 meetings ago, whenever.
Well, that's like I said, that's why we thought the idea of signing up ahead of time. So if you do have, like you said, 10 or 12 people who kind of are here on the same thing, maybe you have 1 or 2 people who represent that group collectively
Oh, I
that
see,
can
I
speak
see.
on it. And that was one of the things I thought for the sign up ahead of time, you kind of get an idea of how many
Sure.
people are there about. So you do want to hear everyone's feedback, but after a while, it's like it's the same kind of sentiment, just repeated differently. So I still want to hear what the feedback is, absolutely, but if I don't have to talk and you don't have to talk and you don't have to talk, if you want to get up and, summarize what 3 of us said, Jim, I would be okay with that. So I'm just, in the favor of time, I was just thinking,
I think the comment is, I've been in many meetings where people just start going around, you start spinning the wheels. Does anyone have anything new to
Yeah,
add to this topic.
absolutely, yeah,
If we've heard it already in this meeting, it's not new.
yes. And I didn't know that actually till we had that training that she said that we can say that. Does anyone here else have any more comments regarding
Well,
masks or soccer or whatever? If so, then, we're
but it's not gonna be open. You
Right.
still have to invite that speaker up.
Okay.
They should at least be able to make the attempt to sign up and tell us what they'd like to speak about.
And
And then you invite them up.
what's the time element?
I see, I'm okay with 5 minutes.
too.
I don't have a problem.
No, in
with it.
total. I'm just saying in
Oh, okay.
total.
You mean, like for public speaking, we're only gonna.
Right.
Is
speak
it
for
90
30
minutes like it was last month?
Let's just say,
I
right.
think you play that by ear. I think the president, she runs the meeting and she takes into account how long it's going. And if she feels like we're repeating ourselves, then she's gonna make that comment. Is there anyone that has something new? Because we do have other business that we need to conduct.
If we can we have Charlie come in with another vendor on the proposal for the energy project?
Will not be at the next meeting.
Okay.
I can talk about that when this topic's done.
Okay.
For a few minutes.
And then, Ron, the architects in the building project, I know I've been a stoner on this, but
Yeah.
our roofs are gonna start leaking.
Yeah.
And we need to support you and we need to move forward with this project, but collectively, we need to promote this project. We need the residents to support our project. We need to educate them in the process.
Right.
There's a lot of work, and just as Ron said, there's work that they're not gonna see being done. It's not tangible that they're gonna
Right.
see it,
Right.
except for the roofs leaking and buckets in room, and we don't wanna wait for that. I mean, we gotta get through the winter, we've gotta get to state ed, we've gotta get it approved.
Right.
We gotta get contracts out, that's a 2-year turnaround, isn't it?
In some cases, it might be.
I think we owe it to Ron and Charlie to get on with business.
Yeah.
And I said it again, we need to, somehow we need to settle a bargaining unit contract. Life needs to go on. The political football about a mask has gotta end.
I said one more comment. The senior class president reached out to me and asked what the protocol would be if he would to come to sit in to one of the board meetings, if he would have to, I don't know, reach out to Marie or how he would reach out to do that when he doesn't work. And I thought there was a comment prior that they would want more student leadership sitting in to observe. I mean, not for executive committee, obviously, but for whatever the protocol was for that.
Well, that's what I suggested in the summer when we had our reorganization.
Correct.
meeting, is that
So he
we
wants
would
to
ask
come.
somebody from the student
Yep.
to come in, and they're obviously non-voting, obviously they can't go into executive session, but you were gonna ask the attorneys what they could and couldn't do, because I think either it's the president, if they can't come, then some officer on the student leadership come and sit on the meeting.
Okay, so he would just come and sit.
Right now,
Okay.
yeah.
All right.
Until, yeah.
But then, Mike, I mean, I think the requirement for government and economics may have changed, but we used to have students who would come for course credit for participation in government, just to view a public meeting. Has that changed? Has that requirement changed?
Yeah, they don't.
I'm aging
it's not a-
myself now.
It's not a requirement, but
Okay.
I know there used to be like a community service requirement, but there's no longer.
No more?
one, Yeah.
But can we get back to the protocol topic? We've veered
Yeah.
off a little bit.
Okay.
So I'm comfortable with what we outlined so far. And now, if we do have a disturbance and people are not following our expectations, then what are we gonna do then?
Those are the options that we have to explore, what we can do so that it doesn't derail the whole meeting and have to, again, the purpose of tonight's meeting was just to take care of the business we couldn't attend to last time. In the future, I'd like to still be able to attend to it that night. In what fashion can we do that? Yes, we'll have law enforcement there, present, but, the issue becomes if somebody refuses to leave and, whatever, disturbance that does. You're absolutely right, and I think, we can use some more foresight in the future. We were all put on the spot last time.
Yeah.
We had a motion on the floor that has to be dealt with, and we dealt with it. And if you didn't want that motion to go through, then that motion needs to get shot down. Then you entertain another motion, which could have then been the executive session one. Had we thought of that, or say, hey, that's the way we should have gone in the first place, that should have been the original motion. And maybe that's a consideration for the next meeting. We go into executive session to deal with our business there and hope that things are rectified for the regular meeting to return to it. But I will research what protocols or what, how to effectively and
I was gonna say, can we go out of
To do
sequence
that.
and go into executive session out of
we
meeting?
go to executive session.
Anytime.
Whenever we want.
Anytime.
Yes.
And I would like to propose this and have you examine this with whoever, I'm assuming the attorneys, is when we put our meeting notice out, can we put out that our meeting notice is gonna be the 28th with a backup of a virtual meeting on the 29th? So that it's the next day, and if the board members are able to attend a virtual meeting on the 29th, that's our backup. And then the community knows that if we can't get our business done in person on the 28th, we're gonna suspend the meeting. I think we should still go do executive session, because I think there's business that we can do in there within the board, and then do a virtual meeting the next day.
We can't opt at that point to go virtual if we.
Well,
you
then
know what
I'm all
saying?
for that too,
You know what
if we
I'm
can
saying?
do that,
We're
yeah.
all here, so I don't
Yeah,
know
I'm
how
all
long
for
it
that,
takes
too.
to set this up, but if we can't conduct it in person live, can we, come into this setting and then go virtual? That way we could
We would just
still
have to
continue,
inform, I
right,
think, but
yeah,
that's
right.
something that you would have to find out.
Is that
But
an
I'm all
option?
for that one
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
That would be
yeah,
my first choice.
Yes,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's the best idea.
Yeah.
yeah.
Then you don't
So-
have to come out
right,
second night,
So that
I'm all
would
for
be,
that.
right in the protocol, that if we can't conduct the meeting live in person, then we would continue the meeting here, and then they could go home and anyone can watch it virtually if they want
Right.
to, so we're not, yeah.
That was one of the attempts I was trying to do that night until the person refused to leave, and
Yeah.
we was turning into what it was turning into.
Sure.
Because we do have the live stream, and,
Yeah.
Okay,
that begs the other question, is that, are we still comfortable doing the live stream, even if we're in person?
Is there any negative that we have found to the live stream?
No,
I'm still comfortable doing the live stream, because I think people that would like to see what's going on and hear the discussions that are taking place, but don't want to come into the school, I think they should still have that option. So unless there's some negative that, we don't know about, then I don't know why that would affect the live stream, in my
no,
opinion.
I'm okay with it. The only thing I would make a recommendation is that the chat room feature not be open anymore, because if we're gonna have them sign up ahead of time and we know what they're gonna speak on, or you lose that with that chat room feature. So we could give them the option to let them know that we will still can read their comments during public to be heard, but if they can submit ahead of time to our board clerk, we
Okay.
can read them. That
I'm
way,
all for
like I
that.
said, and we could be, that's the same thing, Todd, like I said, if we get 10 people who have a comment regarding the same subject, we can kind of summarize, say, okay, we received 10 comments regarding this, and we'll read a few, or, whatever along there, so we don't have to keep reiterating
But
the
then
same thing.
in the second public session,
Mhm.
that, someone does monitor those, and if the person,
There won't be any chat room feature at all.
so if I'm at home watching the meeting, and there's something that was said during the meeting that I might want clarification on, how would they communicate that? They would.
Then so if you want a point of clarification, that's a question.
Right.
You go to the person that you need the answer from.
Okay.
So that if they need a question, they can email me, they can
Okay.
call me. If it's something that, it's in the elementary school, then, or, talk to the building principal, because I think that's what people have to understand, that,
Yeah.
it, it's not a back and forth dialogue, these
Right.
meetings. If you have a question, then there's probably somebody that can answer it, and it may not be able to be answered right here at this meeting, and we would say, hey, we hear your question, but we'll go. Or if somebody actually has a comment that they share that requires more information to get back to them on, or something to that effect. But if they ask a question, then respectfully, it won't specifically be answered at that meeting. And consider that question ahead of time and
Right,
ask the
yeah.
appropriate person, whether,
Yeah,
follow the
right.
chain. If it's a classroom question, ask a teacher. If it's if it needs to go to a building level administrator, ask a building level administrator. If it's a business office question, call the business office. If it's a question for me, call me or email me.
I agree with that. All right. Good point.
Do you think it would be good to have two officers on call at the next meeting?
There will be, that's per the sheriff, yes.
Okay, that'd
They
be
already
great.
stated
Yeah,
that.
I think that would help whoever's there.
Yeah.
Good. Getting
So
better.
are we in agreement then that if we do have to suspend the meeting, we would conduct if there are any executive session items, we could still conduct it that night. And you're going to examine whether or not we could have a virtual option.
How we
same
can
night,
reconvene, either virtually or come back.
or
in
the
person.
next day or
Yeah.
another day or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
Super.
But we're in agreement that if we do have disturbances,
Yeah.
we're gonna go virtual, and we may go virtual for an extended period of time.
I think that's fair.
I mean, I think we're being upfront with our community and, you know,
Tony, you okay with that?
Yes,
So
absolutely.
if I could summarize just for the minutes that, you know, there may be a question or a statement saying, hey, we've discussed the topics of masks. And, you know, you know, we're following, I think that's a perfect statement to say, we are following New York State guidelines. Our reopening plan basically is following New York State guidelines.
Well,
Masks are included.
But I think we should be clear that we are gonna follow mandates. Because there's mandates between that and guidelines, because the guidelines that came out from the CDC are open to interpretation, and they let school districts kind of make a decision. Like with the mask, we made a decision that we were gonna mandate masks, because that was in the guidelines. But when they mandate something, because right now they do mandate masks, and they mandate the testing and the vaccination policy. That's the only two mandates that I'm aware of. But I think we need to be clear that we're gonna follow mandates, and we will have a discussion, and I think we've shown that we go through the guidelines. But I think we should not box ourselves in a corner.
Then I also have that people will sign up ahead of time to speak. So I think to be mindful of getting our meeting started on time, then they need to get there in time to sign up. Are we saying that it's not on there by 7, then they don't speak, or how is?
Should they can't sign up ahead of time, like they can email.
They can do that as well.
I
I
recommend
think
that they
that's
do
great,
that. I don't
yeah.
know.
Or that's our
Sign
only-
up right there.
Or
because
that's
I-
the option, is to sign up, because, well, that's why I'm going over this, because I want people to
Okay.
be clear. Tonight, they were expressed, you know, it was published in the newspaper and on our signs on the doors, that, you know, if you had a comment, it needs to be submitted to the board clerk prior to the meeting.
And
So-
I think if they're gonna make a comment, they need to sign up with their name and the topic
Yeah.
prior to 6 PM the night of the board meeting. Because then that's fair to Dawn, that she at least gets to review it prior to the meeting, so she can be prepared on how she's gonna address those topics and the comments.
Okay. Speak once for 5 minutes, when invited by the president. And then virtual people, those that elect to watch the meetings virtually, they can submit their public comments the same as anyone else. You know, again, will be shared. And if some of those comments are basically questions that can be answered, I certainly would try to take care of those ahead of time or deal with them in a timely manner. But, and then the second public to be heard, obviously people aren't necessarily signing up for that.
I
Right,
cancel
that's why I
it.
was canceled. I was with you on
So-
that.
Cancel it.
I'm all for that.
All that's gonna be is a rebuttal.
Right.
Yeah,
And
So-
yeah.
There's the yo-yo going back and forth.
Because if they have a question, once again, they can go to Ron or the building principal or teacher. So they should.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
Okay. Anything else? All right, that's all I have.
All right. Any other miscellaneous topics?
Can I talk about the building?
Yeah.
Charlie.
Charlie.
Please do.
Actually, I want to hand out a document that was prepared by Bernie Donigan's office. There are fiscal advisors.
Thank you.
And just go over a couple of points in here. There is right now a pretty firm timeline for the capital project plan, and that is we've established a tentative date of December 8th to have a community vote on the capital project. Give you one on? And to stick to that date of December 8th, the board will need to approve language for the referendum on our October 12th meeting. So there's a couple of things. One thing that 2 meetings ago now, we had that presentation on energy performance contracts. So there's 2 pieces to this. There's a capital project, And there's also the potential that we would do an energy performance contract. The energy performance contract would address lighting throughout the district. We've submitted or put the notice in the newspaper for RFPs for the energy performance contract. They are due back to the district October 14th. We know Day Automation has already requested that, and there's been a second vendor, CNS companies, that has requested the information as well. So at this point, we will at least probably receive 2 RFPs or information from school districts or program companies regarding EPC. The board can take a look at those, decide they want to continue forward with the EPC, or end it at that point and say, we don't want to go that route, we want to do it all through a capital project. The capital project, the reason that we're shooting for a December 8th public vote is because we would like to address the roofs in the summer of '22. And to do that, we need to get things rolling sooner than later. The architects are already doing the preliminary work for the roofing and intending to submit some information to SED ahead of that vote. If it is negative, at least we have the roof architect design work done. And eventually we're going to have to replace roofs. You know, if we don't approve the project, if the community doesn't approve it in December, then somewhere down the road, we will have the majority of the back end work done so that the roofs will be able to be addressed as soon as possible. So those are the things that are going on right now. On October 12th, there would be 4 resolutions. 2 would be environmental quality reviews, 1 for the capital project and 1 for the energy performance contract. Another one would be the language for the capital project that the board would present to the community on December 8th. And a 4th one would be language for the energy performance contract. Energy performance contracts are not required to be approved by the community, but if they are approved by the community, they receive an additional 10% of building aid. So our aid ratio is about 80%. With the approval from the community, if we do go forward with the energy performance contract for the LED lighting, we would receive the 90% or 89.5% is our actual enhanced building aid ratio right now. So those would be the 4 resolutions that the board would need to approve on October 12th for a December 8th public vote. And there's a 45-day timeline that has to be met, and that's the reason that we would need to do that on October 12th. Any questions on that before I just talk about a couple of things in this? Go ahead.
So with the energy performance, to get the 10%, we would need the community approval.
Yes.
If on the 8th, they did not approve that, we would, as a board, still have the option of moving forward, we just wouldn't get the 10%?
Correct.
Okay. And one more question. The energy performance, when they came and did their presentation, and this came up after the meeting, so does it address any lighting out at the stadium field?
Everything would be LED throughout the district, including stadium.
Including stadium, okay, thank you.
Charlie, the 10% is only for the electrical component or the entire project?
The entire project. The capital project needs approval by the community. And if that receives approval by the community, then we would get our 89.5% building aid ratio. If it isn't approved, then the project it would not move forward.
89% of the project would get state aid.
Yes, of the eligible costs. And that's kind of what Donegan has done for us here is one of the reasons that there are a couple of reasons. 1, roofs need to be replaced. 2, our turf field is beyond the end of its useful life. And 3, with a tax cap calculation in place, when you see debt fall off, you want to make sure that you have new projects coming on so that you don't see your tax levy go down by 4 or 5% to the community, and then when you do a project, it goes up by 7 or 8%. That makes it much more difficult. So the idea here is that if you turn to that first tab where the green is, you can see they've got highlighted on yellow that our local share drops off by 163,000 in the 23-24 school year. And this is something that, that's why we're kind of planning this the way we are. And if you flip that over, that kind of shows graphically what that means, what's going to happen. you've got your pretty level, and then in 23, 24, the local share drops off, and that's when you have a tax cap calculation that's negative. And, you know, it's like, okay, we will, well, look, ours was 0.19%, if you recall, this year, and we did, as the board did choose to exceed that and go to the 2%, and we did get the supermajority approval by the community. So you can see in 23, 24, that would drop back down significantly, it would probably be a negative tax cap calculation for that year. So if you turn over to the yellow tab, and that kind of shows graphically what happens if we do get this project approved, and that kind of levels things out, as far as the local share. And that keeps us, you know, our tax cap calculation keeps the debt component of it constant over the next, almost 12 or 15 years, you can see as that plays out. The reduction in our local share would allow us a capital project of $10,785,000, and that's what Donegan has included in the calculations that are included in this presentation that they provided. At the back of this is the scope of the project for each of the buildings. I'm not going to go into that tonight, but I think that's what I would ask the board to take a look at. And if they have questions, I mean, the roofs, the turf field, there's some flooring replacements, and there's mechanical work to be done on the HVAC system, et cetera. And then there's some other items that have come up as the discussions occurred over the summer with the Board of Education. And I think it addresses, from my perspective, it addresses the infrastructure that is needed, and I think it addresses some of the questions and concerns that the board had or had brought up. If there's anything else that does come up, certainly that can be, maybe even communicated to Ron ahead of the next board meeting, and we maybe can have some answers, but at least at the September 28th meeting, have any questions that you may have on this. October 12th, we would try to do a final wrap-up presentation and ask the board to approve the referendum language as well as the seeker resolutions that would then put the wheels in motion to allow for a vote on December 8th. Any questions?
I got a Todd Nelson question.
Yes, sir.
Okay, help me out on this one. Now, the cost of our project, which is coming out of debt, off debt, was 163,000. And the new one's gonna be in the range of 214 to what? 208, 207?
What page are we on?
If you
Let's
look
see,
at-
Jim,
If you look at page 5, that shows the new project and the debt. And in 23, 24, you see 163, 279 all the way to the far right.
yes,
That's kind of to offset that 164 that's coming off.
okay. What's our new cost gonna be? If we're doing a budget for the future in 4 years, what's that locked-in payment that we're gonna have to pay for this project?
It will be similar to what it is today. And this kind of gives it to you by year for that specific project. And if you turn it to the next page,
What page, Charlie?
page 6 now it's on,
Okay,
it shows from this year that we're in right now, our local share is 214,551.
yeah,
See that number? Okay, I know it's pretty small, actually. And this puts the new project in, and that shows that we stay right around that 200,000, 209,000 in 32, 33, and then drops down to 171 after that. So this project kind of stabilizes things until 2032, 33, as far as the tax cap impact.
so that's excellent.
It's what we would want to happen, I will say, yes, yeah.
Did I ask that right, Todd?
You did? Very good.
Well, that's good news,
Yeah.
very good news.
Well, the work
I mean,
is
that's
getting
the benefit.
$1,700,000 project approved on December 8th.
Yes.
So
Right.
that's-
Yes,
That's right.
So I agree, it's now maybe getting information to the community, and maybe feedback as to what their thoughts are, but in general, you know, it's renovations to things that keep the buildings usable. Roofs, mechanical, flooring, the asbestos flooring to be replaced, and then there's some access to the middle school football fields and things, the turf field being replaced, but that's beyond its life, its useful life. So it's those types of things that I am hopeful would receive support from the community.
So Charlie, for the next meeting, I'm just gonna give you a heads up, some homework on it. I know that the energy performance contract and the building project kind of work together a little bit.
Mhm.
Could you maybe expand on that next meeting, just to give us an update of the benefit of how the two work together? So we can explain it to the community if we're asked, you know, why are you doing this and doing this? And how they work together.
The quickest answer I can give right now on the energy performance contract is, to do the LED lighting through a capital project, it would take 2 years to get approval from the state. You know, just to get the roofs in place, the architects are doing some work right now. The LED lighting, we would not be able to do that until summer of '23 at the earliest. Through the EPC, it could be done summer of '22.
Okay,
So that's the short answer, I guess.
okay, that's all I need then.
I just had a
Who's your
question.
guys' expert?
When we talk about getting the information to the community, like, as a rookie, explain me how that's done. Is there like one sheet, one concrete sheet regarding Bernard P. Donegan and what we're doing with numbers and savings for them? Like, is it like, gonna be simply put, because this is, obviously they're not gonna see it.
Yes.
Correct, yes. But like, how is that done? We say give it to the community, Todd, so like, what would that mean?
Want to answer that?
Well,
There will be a separate newsletter, maybe.
Right,
Yeah.
we'll work with our architects. I know in the last project, they did a lot of, pre-vote informational stuff. We'll put out, certainly there'll be in a newsletter or even a special mailing regarding that. We have put it in the newsletter. We did talk about it we had the architects here, I believe it was the second meeting in July. First or second meeting in July to explain the general scope. And as Charlie said, it's a lot of this project is items that have reached the end of their useful life, the roofs, the turf, flooring, some of the stuff, elevator work, elevator and flooring were two major portions that, we did some of that work. We did a very little work on elevator and we did a lot of work on flooring, but there was a lot more flooring work that needed to be done in the last project, but some of it got prioritized. They were listed as alternates and they did not get included in the last project simply because of how projects run. Sometimes you find unforeseen things and more money has to go into a certain aspect of the project than you anticipated. And some of the alternates, there's not money left to finish that. So this project is encompassing rolling over stuff from that last project.
Absolutely.
An addition would be perhaps an access to this lower soccer softball field at the middle school. Perhaps a scoreboard was mentioned at the stadium, but those might end up being listed as alternates of things that, all right, maybe these aren't emerging needs that we have that could, if we can, at the end of the project, still do it, we'll do it. If not, then maybe they get carried over to a future project. But that's basically what we're looking at. It's not a really full of frills type of project, but just general infrastructure and keeping the brick and mortar solid. And some of that work is in there, not to, make a joke of it. We are doing some pointing up on our buildings to make sure they continue to stay sound and, and what have you. So
Thank you.
those are the bulk of it. But is there anything more, I guess, regarding scope or things that you want further from us to share at the next meeting? Or certainly
I'd
before
like to look
October
through this a
12th.
little bit more
Okay.
in detail, just to, 'cause
All
I
right.
didn't get a chance to look at everything that's in there. And then we'll communicate with Ron and,
the 28th.
But as far as the scope too, of
Yeah.
actually what's being done in the project, if you have
That's what I mean,
questions,
yeah.
let us know ahead of time. You can, and we'll get those addressed so everybody can hear.
we are addressing one roof this year, right? In the summer coming up. Didn't we bond that out? Or that was in this year's budget?
We did a capital outlay project
Yeah.
to an elevator.
To do-
Oh, elevator, that's right. Thank
Yep.
you. Thank you for clarifying that. That is the elevator, not the roof.
I have a Tony Nicotera question now. Okay. Charlie, this is phenomenal.
This is
And-
Donovan's work, and they do a fabulous job.
They do a fabulous job, is right. But you're the key here. And
Here
you're
it
the key
comes.
player. And, a lot is on your shoulder and I just want to commend you, let's put it like that. But, having you involved in a project like this in Ron's leadership will make this possible. To start a project with that rate and finish it at that rate, I don't think we'll ever be in a position we were 3 to 5 years ago, not with that type of planning. So thank you, and
Thank you. Wow.
we thank you both.
Mhm.
Thank you.
You're a wealth of knowledge.
Well, we'll see, yes.
And then as we unfold this to, the public, there'll be like a clear and simple picture for them of how it impacts their taxes each year and stuff, because that's what they'll
Yeah.
understand a lot better.
There will also be a hearing, usually a public hearing, prior to the vote.
Yeah.
And that's good because it's before the real bad weather comes.
Well, we hope sometimes bad weather comes in November, so October.
I was gonna say October, I remember October sometime.
Sorry.
All
It-
right, thank
okay.
you. I'm sorry, was there, I didn't want to interrupt you, go ahead.
It just to go look, but you remember after the May vote this year, I think I made the suggestion that possibly we look at putting that ballot box at the elementary school. I think that's still gonna be a strong point of interest. It's just, not that it's more easily accessible, but there's a higher population of parents that come and pick up kids. And when we voted down here, it was kind of low keyed and quiet. And the only people in and out were the true people that wanted to come out and vote. But that high population, especially with the cars that we're seeing every day, having those ballot boxes up there might be a good thing to consider, Ron.
Yeah, well, that won't necessarily transpire in the vote. I mean, they're there to pick up their kids.
Exactly,
And-
but
and
the
it is
exposure,
gonna-
because,
Well, the exposure, yes, but that's gonna mean them probably turning around and coming back for the purpose of voting. Because the purpose of voting won't be the same time that they're picking up their kids. Because it's, you need to kind of get in, grab your kids and
You don't
go.
want the back,
right,
What's that?
the backlog, or are you concerned about the
Yeah,
traffic?
I mean,
Yeah.
we'll have, because there are a lot of cars, as you said.
or if they
but,
vote during the day or earlier in the day when they drop the kids off. But wasn't this, Marie, one of the lowest turnouts we ever had for a vote?
This is the
It was-
first one I've done.
Okay.
I
Jim?
would have to say.
Ron?
I don't know if it's the lowest, but it was a low turnout.
It was a low
Never was,
turnout.
yeah.
And then you talk with people after, say, oh, yeah, I forgot all about it. But if they see it, they're there, they're a better chance of going, cast a ballot either way, but at least vote,
Right.
you know?
Huh.
Just something to consider.
So the middle school's already dismissed, and elementary people could pick up and maybe swing through that area on their way down the hill or whatever. If it was just. gonna be
I
one-
think it's just, you just gotta promote it and you gotta
Yeah, get
get
'em
people, you know, I mean, their civic duty, get out and vote.
Yeah.
You know, and, you know, as Tony said, whichever way you vote, vote. You know, we hear that. So I don't know if location
Yeah.
is key to that. I mean, we've had events here before and people don't come down to vote.
Yeah.
You know, but they are here to watch an event. You know, but that doesn't necessarily, you know, they forgot to do it while they were here.
Yeah.
But I'm open to suggestions to see, I mean, that's a possibility, but if we're having that open to vote up at the elementary where we usually did, because it was a quick entry in and out, they don't have to travel a lot through the building. You know, here at the auditorium, at least that's where they stay, during the day. You know, when we did it in the elementary, they do have to come into the building, albeit right across the hall from the entrance and the upper entrance. And then, you know, the expectation, vote, and then go right back across the hall and leave. You know, that's the one value of at least having here, it's kind of an isolated portion of the building that's accessible and it can all be dealt with there. If people are coming at the time, you know, they want to come and vote between 2:30 and 3:30, they have to deal with the traffic congestion to come across the line to vote. You know, but I don't know how many people that would be. Most people get out of work probably after 4 and then come to vote.
Yeah.
We get some at the beginning of the day, slow during the day, and then it comes whatever you know, the larger push would be in the evening after work.
Ron, do we robocall reminder of the vote?
The only problem with doing robocall for reminder of the vote is I'm only calling people
People within
who
the
have kids in the district. So it does not
Doesn't-
access
doesn't
everybody in the
access
whole
everybody.
community. So I refrain from doing that for that reason.
Mhm.
All right, do we have any other miscellaneous topics? Judy?
The cameras, are they working on the field yet? The sports field? I saw that it was installed, but I don't think it's been.
They're installed. I will check on the operational status. I know there was some glitches, but,
There was some
I don't
software
know.
issues that they were working through
Okay,
with our technology department.
Yeah.
Well, just one of our coaches was out because of COVID, and I had to FaceTime the whole game.
Yeah.
So I was like,
Yeah.
isn't that the camera out there?
Yeah,
It's not easy to do either,
Yep.
but try to hold your hand steady and.
The whole soccer game I was
Yeah.
doing this.
Really?
And then he's like, call this guy over here, I have to tell him to do this. But I was just wondering if it was working. Okay.
All right. Any other miscellaneous topics? All right then. Okay, so I'll go back for public to be heard one more time. I know we didn't have anything submitted.
Yep.
Okay, so next we'll move on to executive session, and I'll need a motion to go into executive session for a personnel matter for a particular employee and for contractual matter.
So moved.
Tony,
Second?
second,
Whatever.
Ron? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I,
Any opposed?
What time?
Oh, I'm sorry. It's
8:50.
8:50.
Charlie, we have air filtration in the project? Ron, do we?
Ventilators, there's some, I was noticing.
Yeah.
Handlers,
Yeah.
So we had some new ones put in the last project with, well, I guess we'll come back to that because we're in executive session, so, maybe at the next meeting.
Would